experiences in VR.
Mm-hmm.
No, we don't. Not yet.
Not yet.
Certainly.
And my guess is that the VR tech is going to improve so rapidly that we never build the words because the language formation is in permanent lag behind the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And that has never happened to humans before. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like this notion that we've got this frayed edge where the language formation mechanism is just tattered by the rate of change, and you just have these ripped shreds of language floating in the breeze trying to wrap themselves around meaning which changes too quickly to escape. Yeah, it's almost the kind of thing that would make you want to pay poets to just sit inside a VR to
Yeah.
make the metaphor.
Yeah.
Well, there's plenty of spare talent and poets that isn't being used for any commercial purpose.
Mhm.
Oh god, we've just figured out how to instrumentalize poetry. Oh. Okay.
Secure Scuttlebutt also has this problem, incidentally, because a lot of the words we have for thinking about, like, organising people are intrinsically centralised. So people will maybe tell someone about Secure Scuttlebutt and they're like, oh, how do I sign up for that? And I was like, well, you don't sign up.
Yeah.
There is no
Yeah.
such thing as sign up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Signing up is like a medieval term, where it's like you want to join a guild and they'll write your name in some kind of book.
Yeah.
Then you can accelerate that technology by printing presses and stuff like this. But basically, you get to HTTP, and HTTP works exactly like a bookshelf. You can put a book on the shelf, and you can get a book from the shelf.
Yep.
Mhm.
But it's totally about this, like, it's basically just works just like before HTTP. You had there were things like the Whole Earth Guide, where you would get the book, then you would follow links by writing a letter to someone, and then they would send you more reading material.
Yes.
And that stuff had been the postal internet has been happening since, like, it's been hundreds of years old now, since the penny post. So that was when the information revolution started.
Yeah.
When you began to get, once you had it was cheap to send letters, it was, worthwhile learning to read and write, and you started to get in the industrializing European countries a pretty high level of literacy.
Ongoing kind of literacy explosion. Because I remember this. Yeah. And all the stuff around the early days of blogging, that it was this kind of whole rebirth of the written word.
Yep.
People were learning how to write well because it was suddenly there was immediate feedback, this kind of thing.
And it's kind of funny because that followed on from a cultural period where we were really talking about the death of the written word. I mean, this happens. People are always talking about this kind of thing. It turns out that it never really goes away. In fact, there are many more words now than there used to be. The production of information, the production of words, is going up and is accelerating, if anything. The sheer number of text messages, WhatsApp messages, Facebook messages, we're actually doing a lot more text than we used to be.
Absolutely. And innovative text, like, much as we slag emoticons and all the rest of this stuff, there are things like, have you seen this thing with the hamster and the large piece of kind of rubber cheese?
No?
So it's possibly the greatest animated GIF in human history.
Right.
So there's a hamster with a large piece of rubber cheese in its mouth, and it's kind of walking forward looking very cheerful, and then you see the snout of a large dog come into view, grab the rubber cheese and pull it, and the hamster comes with it, and it just goes and just vanishes off screen. I posted it on Twitter a couple of days ago under the title, learning about startup acquisitions. And, having seen that thing, like, there's a particular quality of, like, zoop, which, now that I've seen it, that's not going to be a mental referent for me for a particular kind of lifted and taken thing.
So I think the interesting thing is that you see this if you look at histories of old dialect words. A lot of them there will be a lot of dialect words about animals. There'll be a lot of dialect words about physical work, injury, feelings of tiredness, feelings of things related to the kind of agricultural existence that people were in. They had all these kinds of words where every region had different dialect words. Even within a country that has a single language, there'll be all kinds of local dialect words for these things.
Yes.
Because they needed them. They needed to have them in their everyday existence to refer to very often very subtle, sometimes very specific, the precise noise that a dog makes when it can, when it's trying to catch a rat or something like
Mhm.
that. Because that would occur often enough that it would be worth having a word to refer to those things, and you needed to communicate with people about them. So we definitely have the ability to develop those new words. The question is, do any meanings stay fixed long enough that we can put a word on them,
Well,
and then that becomes the word, and everyone can kind of agree on
There's
it.
also a huge amount of words and phrases in English that have like obscure, aren't they have like came from particular like occupations or something. So like I was doing some research, naming research to think of like what am I going to name this thing, this code thing I'm writing, and my thing had to do with logs and streams. So it's like, oh, what about the act of floating logs down a river?
Yeah.
So I was digging around here and I found that the phrase high and dry comes from log rafting.
Really?
So if the logs got stuck in the shallows,
Yes.
so they would try to float the logs down on the snowmelt.
Yeah.
If they get stuck in the shallows and the water went down, they won't be able to refloat those. They won't be able to get the value out of those logs until next summer.
Right.
They are high and dry.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Because they're out of the water and you can't move them until the next snow melt.
Yep.
That's amazing.
There's also like a whole lot of words that come from like that are nautical phrases. Like give someone a lot of leeway.
Yeah.
Take the wind out of their sails.
Yes.
Yes. I don't like the cut with their jib.
Yeah.
Is a good one. These are all like actually have very specific and sensible meanings with in sailing, but they're just in common English. But my favourite one, pipe dream. What kind of pipe is it?
Opium pipe.
That's correct. Yeah. But most people don't realise they're making a hardcore drug reference.
Yeah.
You are probably the first person I have spoken to that got it immediately.
Well, it was the nautical thing, right? So I assumed it come from sailors.
Right.
Going to the Far East.
Yeah.
Right, because Brits wouldn't have really easy access to opium. This kind of Oriental drug den kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that phrase is so old now that completely square people use that.
Oh yeah.
Use that phrase.
Yeah.
Without realizing what it means, but.
Interesting. So this notion that language formation is a key thing. I mean, I don't even know how we would build social structures or tools to accelerate language formation. But the notion that we've got this kind of entire suite of new technologies. Charades, right? Describe this to me in a way that I understand often enough. Because frankly, we failed this with blockchain, right? We spent years trying to form language around blockchain, and we still have to describe everything from scratch every time. We just didn't make it. But it's interesting on the other side of this, right? So we were talking about this kind of decline of the written word thing followed by the explosion. There was the decline of attention span. Everybody was watching 2-minute videos on YouTube, and then there was the enormous explosion of the boxed set series at a time, take a weekend off thing. So there's some kind of pendulum where it's almost like as the culture moves one way, interesting stuff grows in the edges. So the notion that poetry might be basically a derelict form because poets won't write about technology and that's where we need them.
Yeah, I'm going to push back slightly on this idea that there is a pendulum, that these are fundamentally different forms. They're different forms, but I don't think this implies that that there's any great changes occurring in human attention span at any point. Because one of the things that's really interesting about a lot of internet communications is that they're fragmentary.
Yes.
It's a single tweet here, it's a blog post there. It's rather than sitting down and reading a novel, we might read the same number of words but spread across a whole number of different things. But what this actually optimizes for is I think I got this from Tyler Cowen, is the ability to follow a narrative. Is actually the ability to figure out how these things are connected together.
That's interesting.
So actually, you're taking in all of this information, but you're also working really hard to reconstruct how these things are connected to each other.
Hence the love of things like ARGs.
But what this looks like is it looks like shallowness and superficiality because you're just taking these bite-sized chunks in. What nobody can see is what's going on inside your head, which is that you're then building this into a mental model. And actually the novel in that case then, or the long-form book comes out looking like the lazy option because it's just laid out for you end to end. And you just follow it in the order that it's in and you don't even need to do the work.
That's fascinating.
So depending on the perspective that you look at it, you can make a case going either way. And it may well be the case that actually, the level of actual change may not be that great. It's just we haven't really understood the medium yet.
Yeah. And I mean, that haven't really understood the medium yet, I think, is the core conclusion that I'm coming to with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, when Scuttlebutt is, largely adopted, which I think is very likely. It's got all the right properties. We're in this kind of gap of trust with Twitter, where we've already gotten the feeling that it's in the cycle of decline that always happens to the platform.
Yep.
Everybody is looking for the encrypted Twitter clone. You've got a bunch of infrastructure which covers the encrypted Twitter niche and a bunch of other things. It seems very likely to me that will go places and succeed. But, as that happens, the notion that you have this kind of protocolized distributed messaging service thing, I wonder whether we'll wind up having to make that look exactly like web-based social media, or whether we'll actually wind up in a position where people are ready to absorb a new set of interface metaphors, a new set of paradigms, and it turns into something new.
I think some people often say, oh no, if it's not like exactly the same, then it's too hard for people.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit. People are pretty. What fucking monkeys that can read and write and drive cars and fly in airplanes, like
Some of us could read and write and drive cars.
Yeah, so we're pretty good at actually adapting to things, as long as the amount of new things you need to learn is manageable.
Yes.
So like even the web, it's point and clicking and stuff like this. But
Yeah.
one thing you need to understand is like how URLs work.
Yes.
You don't need to understand, like it doesn't really. The URLs are pretty opaque, but you can copy the URL and you can paste it into an email, and someone can click on that.
Yes.
That's the important thing about URLs. That the
social
URL represents
interface.
where you are.
Yeah.
That is one of the things. That's kind of like, to drive a car, you need to know how steering works.
Yes.
And how it brakes and how to change gears and stuff like that.
Yes.
You can't get away from learning that, even if you don't have to work on the engine yourself, which is which you kind of had to do in the early cars. Horses had a much more intuitive interface.
After a few thousand years of riding them.
Yeah.
I bet the first interaction with the horse was not intuitive.
No. But you could have put a horse interface on a car. It just would have retarded the development of cars significantly.
Oh man, that would have been amazing.
Because you're like, okay, you flick the reins when you want the car to go faster.
I'm fairly sure something along these lines did in fact exist.
Wow.
Some kind of fake horse's head that would sit on the front of the car to make it feel like you were riding a horse. I can't remember where I've seen that, but I'm pretty sure it exists.
I'm just imagining the saddle that you sit on with the reins for steering.
I'm pretty sure that existed as well.
Oh man, we've got to find pictures of that. Because having that on something that looked like a tarot card and just being able to play it. You see what I'm saying? Like, here's what we've learned. Again, it's the
language formation thing. Faster horses.
Faster horses.
Yeah.
Chris Locke used to talk about that, Rage Boy. But that notion of being able to slap down, pictures of these accommodation errors from previous technologies to describe what's happening as new stuff comes in. I mean, the blockchain world is filled with that. Oh, it's just like money. It's not just like money. etc., etc., etc.
So people are often say like, well, asymmetric cryptography is too hard. People don't get it. Yeah. But I disagree.
And this is a naming problem, right? We should have called it one key cryptography and two key cryptography. 60% of the problem would have gone right there.
Yeah. Also, I would like my so I argue you could actually explain it much more simply in a way that people can really grasp. So, for example, Rumpelstiltskin. You familiar with the story Rumpelstiltskin? Rumpelstiltskin is actually about Bitcoin.
Okay.
You're going to have to tell us a story.
Let me explain.
Do it.
So, one day there's a miller. He's drunk and he's bragging about how his daughter can spin straw into gold.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like he's talking about his new shitcoin on Bitcoin Talk. Then the king, maybe a venture capitalist, is like, wow, this sounds really good. You must demonstrate this for me.
Rob, we should definitely do this.
We totally should.
Yeah. And so, this is like medieval.
Wait, you're supposed to say no. Anyway.
This is like medieval shit. So he gets the daughter and it's like, okay, puts her in a room with straw and a spinning wheel and it's like, spin this to gold.
Yep.
And or I'll cut off your heads.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's brutal medieval shit. I'm not sure if what
We're not
happens in
allowed
the
to do
modern
that
version
anymore.
of that. No. Then, but she's like, oh my god, like we're talking shit. We don't actually know anything about cryptography. And then an imp appears, or a hacker, and the imp is like, I understand cryptography. I can spin straw into gold for you. And they're like, oh, of course, anything. Like what? Yeah, just name your price. What will you do to help? And it's like, all I want. Well, the original story has a few. There's always three things, but he ends up getting their firstborn child,
Yes.
or maybe a significant share equity slice, and then spins the straw into gold.
Yes.
King's very impressed.
Yep.
Marries the miller's daughter,
Yes.
or it requires their startup. Then a year later, the crown prince, the new baby prince is born, or the company IPOs.
Yes.
And then the imp reappears, and it's like, I'm here for what is mine.
Yes.
Give the baby to me. And they're like, oh no, is there any other way? Is there anything else we can do? We'll give you all of the riches in the kingdom. It's like, I can spin straw into gold. I don't need that.
Yes.
I just want the human soul. And they're like, no. Is there any way at all we can get out of this? And he's like, no, of course not. Not unless you can guess my true name.
Yep.
Or his private key.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And he absolutely knows that there's no way they could possibly guess it. There's far too much entropy.
Yep.
But the queen doesn't realise that. She's like, okay, I'll guess your name.
Yep.
And
Yep.
he's like,
Yep.
you'll never guess it. But just to humour them, he's like, I'll give you 3 days to try.
Yes.
And so they gather all of the compute in the kingdom together and start trying to generate names.
Yep.
And of course it fails miserably.
Yes.
Every day he comes back and I say, no, none of these are mine. But then he gets cocky. He practices bad endpoint security. And on the third night, a messenger is travelling through the forest and he sees a strange little man dancing around a campfire, singing a song that goes something like, ha ha ha, tee hee hee, they'll never guess my private key. 3 days is not enough to begin to guess my name is Rumpelstiltskin. And the messenger repeats this story to the queen. She's like, aha! And then when he comes in the morning, they steal all of his bitcoins.
Yep. That's fantastic. That's very, very good.
Absolutely beautiful. Wow. And this, right, is exactly what we should be teaching our children.
Well,
Yes.
we already are.
We just did.
Yeah, well, we've been... Rumpelstiltskin is like at least 500 years old.
Yeah.
Well, it was first... 500 years ago, someone bothered to write it down.
Yes.
Nobody knows how old it really is.
There's definitely nothing in it that couldn't have been written 2,000 years before that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
invented.
So we've been
And-
spending a long time.
The notion of like a true name
Goes
having magical power is actually really old.
goes all the way back.
Yeah.
I'm aware that we are now talking fables and mythology, and we should probably let these nice people go.
Yes, we probably should.
Otherwise, we'll be here in 3 more hours, and so will they.
Mhm.
So, once again,
Yeah.
tell me who you are.
I'm Dominic Taylor from Secure Scuttlebutt.
Mhm. And I'm Rob Knight from the Venture Capital Project.
Without
With,
a name.
with no
Hexayurt.
formally announced
Hexayurt
name.
Capital Partners.
Oh, something like that. Bye, guys.
Right.
All right. That was great, Jen. Fantastic.
That was fun.
You
I love that story.
You stopped